I'm starting this review by apologizing for a reaction I had to the teaser videos. Phantasy Star as a series has never been one to simply stick to one style, one genre, or even one aesthetic. Even games with a single title, such as the original Phantasy Star Online, crossed multiple formats, such as including both a looter shooter, a tactical card game, and a mobile gacha title. PSO2 is no different, and NGS has no canon obligation to stick to a format. Therein lies the following review. Setting aside the Phantasy Star series formats, I'm here to answer a simple set of questions. 1. Does PSO2 NGS fit the MMO genre? As you know, there are many titles that call themselves MMOs and are definitely not. 2. What are the major issues with the game from the perspective of the beta? And 3. What does it bring to the table that is new and worth playing over other MMO titles? Much of this video will be discussing the pros and cons in depth, plus a look at much of the content. But if you want to skip to just the pros and cons, timestamps are below. I'm not going to really talk about the character creator, as there are entire videos dedicated to just how in-depth it is, so I just stuck to the basic character with the old settings. I have discovered that I can shoot lasers in the loading tunnel.
No, oh yeah, you can. I forgot about
Pew
that.
pew pew pew, mother. User interface and items. Sadly, there is no bonus strength added to timing attacks versus just holding down the button, which will remain my only verifiable complaint from what made PSO and PSO2 such engaging games for me at the time. Gathering materials is as simple as killing non-hostile enemies such as these elk or cute fluffy otters who didn't do anything to deserve a clubbing, or hitting rocks. Some of these have HP, while others seem to have a minimum hit counter. Other materials can be gathered with a simple click. Red chests and their rarer locked or golden counterparts seem to contain 5 to 15,000 Meseta or Nesseta, whatever, 95% of the time, which is a bit disappointing. But sometimes you'll get lucky with weapon upgrade materials like grinders. I have yet to see weapons or armor from them, unlike PSO2. The user interface in menus is much more well organized than in PSO2, but it doesn't look pretty, which is a bit of a turnoff. Equipping new gear is a breeze as well. Additionally, inventory features the old instant transport to storage, but you can now also convert things en masse into Meseta, which is a nice addition. Changing blocks or crafting food for buffs are both done at the Ryuker devices, these pillars, found around various zones. You don't even have to interact with the devices beyond getting in proximity to activate new ones, which is nice. Quests are your standard find an NPC and complete their task, and hopefully we don't get any escort missions, cause that would just be awful. Many quests act as the tutorial system, and while skippable, do offer a large sum of experience, so I suggest doing them. The skill tree system has been improved, so that SP gained in one tree now applies to all trees. SP is acquired through cocoons, which I will cover later. For the beta test, these trees are quite small, but these will hopefully look more like the current PSO2 trees on release. During beta, there was no way to get new photon arts, so I have no idea on how that will work. But I expect that it will be drops like in PSO2. Upgrading gear is much more linear than it is in PSO2, and feels a bit closer to a mix between the PSO and PSO2 systems. All of the shops and auction houses, or personal shops, are in one convenient location as well.
Appreciate
Wonder if there's fall damage.
Alright, seems
We'll
like
find
I
out.
go this way. Ooh.
Nope.
I'm gonna have to
Combat. The location of high versus low level enemies could use some work, as I found this level 10 just outside the central city, which, because it's me, I then spent the next 48 minutes soloing for the most part until another level 1 showed up and we killed it together. Which, on that note, you can actually solo most of the enemies in the game if you are good enough at dodging, but it will take forever, even at the proper levels for mini-bosses or bosses. A very fun move is the drop-down crash attack, which unfortunately doesn't seem possible to do from a glide, although being able to drop in on fights from space without fall damage is quite nice. While fighting enemies, you can now revive allies while moving, unlike in PSO2 where you had to stand still for a second, as well as gather healing items in the middle of combat. For fights that last long enough, these healing items and revival items will respawn. Many bosses feature multiple breaking parts that expose weak points, including glowing boosters that if you don't kill first, the enemy is just going to defend most of the time. Most enemies also have an elemental weakness, which can cause them to get frozen or set on fire if you deal enough damage of that type to it. Some even get buffs depending on the weather. This level 19 superboss is an exception to the previous soloable comment, in that he requires a decked out raid that you at most have 1 to 2 minutes to burn down or he vaporizes into space. Speaking of raids, I am pleasantly surprised that some of the zones go up to 32 players per shard, although organized group sizes are currently limited to 4 players. More on that later.
Someone pick that fool up. Get him down so I can blow my shit. Break his fucking shield. Kill him dead. Really? Seriously? Seriously, son? God damn it. I fucking quit.
Mini events. PSE bursts are events that occur when enough enemies in an area have been killed within a time limit, gauged by the yellow bars near the minimap. These events now feature rare silver and gold enemies with exceptional drops, and they can be seen from far away thanks to the rainbow beacons, so anyone can come and join the fight as long as they're in the same shard. There are also meteoric pod events that can be seen from the sky, which feature a similar but smaller group of enemies as PSE bursts.
Terminus. Because I'm doing the same thing as Anna and all the rest of the people were doing with the meme names.
Wait, Vasarati's out here?
He's
Yeah?
with us. He's been out here the whole entire time, bro.
Oh,
I've been here the whole time, you bastard.
he's been like,
What were we
Been
saying
here the
about
whole
you?
time.
Oh my god!
You're dead again?
Yeah, have a party,
Kinda
woo.
Adam on the,
Cocoons. Cocoons are small single-player or party instances that feature an assortment of puzzles or challenges, including mini-bosses, jumping puzzles, and item collection. Scoring high on these by fulfilling all the challenges is where you acquire skill points for your classes. These can also be spammed to complete some quests. I expect these will also have ship-wide leaderboards on release.
You're gonna need them.
Yes?
Hardcore.
But do you like torturing yourself is the question.
I literally have a command on my channel for me to play with voice commands, so yes, I do.
Yeah, that sounds like a terrible idea, actually.
Yeah, people can come into my chat and just like say like, don't use your mouse for 15 minutes, and I'll be like, ah, fuck.
I died.
Sharding. Sharding is a major issue, and the number one complaint I have about PSO2 NGS in its current state. Sharding is essentially making smaller instances inside of an overworld map to either control congestion or limit the amount of players that can be in one zone. Sharding in the latter case is implemented to keep content in that area challenging for players. On the downside, however, when it is implemented, it generally causes more harm than it does good. Shard griefing is one possible downside, where players will AFK in shards to passively increase the zone difficulty, which is detrimental to things like the 2-minute superboss. Sharding also tends to ruin RP and guild events. It is antithetical to the MMORPG genre, as can be read here when Blizzard implemented it on WoW. I suggest pausing if you want to read the whole thing. Lastly, when implemented as it is on PSO2 NGS, it can create an anti-party mechanic as it is based on entry time and doesn't prioritize existing groups. As is, NGS should delay its release until they 1. Make existing parties force into shards with the open space for the whole party, and 2. Implement a system to make raid groups up to shard sizes, whether that's 8, 12, 32, or who knows, even more. If they did this, I would accept it as a welcome addition to the MMO scene. Until then, it is an MMO light, at best. Gacha. The gacha system in PSO2 NGS comes in the form of AC Scratch and SG Scratch tickets, as well as fun points, which are earned through real-world money payments, gameplay events plus achievements, and socialization mechanics respectively. The gacha in PSO2 NGS looks more like a traditional card pull system seen in other titles than it did in PSO2, which I find to be a welcome change. Love the shiny new draw system. Pros and cons. Let's start with the cons. There are a number of glaring issues that need to be fixed before NGS releases in June, a mere few weeks away. Some smaller things include the fact that bosses do not confine themselves to the terrain they are on and can yeet themselves off of things only to force snap back when they reach tethering distance, as seen here with this veteran Ard Banshee. Other enemy issues are the fact that enemies spawn near regen mags and can totally kill you while you're trying to feed the damn thing. The mini-map grid, well, I'll let this clip show you.
This fucking area, the grid moves with my player character versus like me trying to get to the different grid points on the fucking map, the actual like coordinates, and I'm just like, bitches, why?
Terrain has its own issues, where standable polygons don't necessarily exist as collision surfaces in all cases, so learning the surfaces that can be landed on takes more than just a glance. In fact, some of the outcroppings visible on terrain flat out don't exist, and there are numerous holes in the cliffside terrain that you can fall into and get stuck forever in, other than, teleporting out. While this isn't the biggest issue, it can cause major problems when a superboss, for example, decides to spawn on top of a cliff and half the party can't get there on time to help DPS it. Battle power is currently exploitable, and you can enter urgent quests or emergency quests or other instances with a tier 3 subclass weapon while your main class is below level. You can also swap this gear between accepting the quest and entering the zone. Think back to vanilla WoW gear swapping abuse if you're old enough to remember that. Weapon combos are also not currently all that balanced, and some class weapon combos are extremely overpowered, like Hunter Force, which I won't go into explaining. I'm sure they'll fix it before it releases. Other classes, like Ranger, are overpowered from the start, and this one they might not actually fix on release. You might notice during some clips I was hold firing my main gun most of the time. I found that after crunching the numbers, the DPS from straight fire outranked both the time it took to chain attacks and the accuracy of shots fired during a lock-on. An issue that is likely easier to fix is that most of the doll enemies look the same when engaged, with a glowing red color. More uniqueness to doll enemies would be nice, but more importantly, we need to be able to modify the glow color, as there are currently no colorblind settings in-game, which is a major issue, both aesthetically and legally, quite frankly. And of course the biggest issue, the one that could very well kill the game entirely, is sharding, which I described earlier. That said, PSO2 NGS offers a lot of pros that might outweigh the cons, more than I can actually list in this short video. The combat is highly engaging, even more so than in PSO2, now with the added bonus of high jumps and glides, skills that act as a dodge, actual dodging, weapon techs, and the near total removal of animation cancelling / dodge cancelling. Rest in peace my meme build. Although I wish there was still a bonus applied toward timing your attacks versus just holding a button down to attack, as was a staple of the previous PSOs. The environment is absolutely gorgeous, and is a joy to explore. The weather system, ray tracing lighting if you've got an RTX capable system, and environmental detail are all a huge step up from PSO2 and quite frankly most new MMO titles these days. The hub city, while it could use a few more spots to open the personal shop, feels much more immersive and socially engaging than the hub ships in PSO and PSO2. The open world is a much more MMO-esque system than the instanced and procedurally or randomly generated looter-shooter style maps of yore. Emotes and character actions are more fluid, more dynamic, and more immersive than ever. I feel like my character is more than just a puppet that I'm playing. I feel like it's actually a character. The boss fights are incredible, even if some of them are frustrating without the ability to make a raid group. I feel like the way NGS is built, we could see raid bosses similar to PSO's Valopt or Syldragon or Olgaflow, which were less doable in PSO2's very fast-paced environment. And of course, my favorite thing, playing with the UI turned off, is still an option as you see here. Cinematic streams are the best.
Light round his kneecap. That didn't work. He's way too far in the corner. Can't do anything.
Okay.
Oh, I joined the crown.
Get away!
Thanks for watching the video. If you stuck around this long, make sure to check out my co-creators in the video info below. I would also love if you hit that subscribe button, and hit the little bell to get notified when I post my Day 1 release first look, and Week 1 release review, as well as tons of other gaming content. And stop by my streams sometime if you wanna take away my keyboard controls.